Are we sure the 49ers spent their first round pick on an edge rusher? What's up? Welcome to the best darn 49ers show, period. That's Ryan G. Hensely. I'm Grant Cohn. We got a lot of ground to cover today. We're going to talk Leeds United. We're going to talk soccer. We're going to talk basketball later. We're going to talk Malik Mustafa. We're going to make picks. But first, we do need to talk about Mykel Williams. That's where we're going to lead. Before we get there, I want to mention that we have a new sponsor for this show. It's Factor. Factor is it's an online meal subscription service, and it's great. You know, it's like, Ryan, you work all day, and then you work out. You know, you and I are super active, and we're trying to get fit. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like we want to eat healthy, so then you got to cook. But sometimes that takes a long time, and you got to go to the store, and you got to buy the ingredients, and you got to cook and not mess it up. And by that time, I'm gonna mess it up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get DoorDash, and that's expensive, and it's not healthy. So that's where Factor comes in, man. They got so many different meal plans for you for it takes 2 minutes to pop them in the microwave. 2 minutes. It frees up a lot of time. Frees up time that you could be outdoors doing activities. You could be doing crossword puzzles. What do you like to do in your spare time, Ryan?
Not sit around preparing food. That's why
not at all.
Yeah.
So that's where Factor is great, man. Get started at factormeals.com/Cohn50off and use code Cohn50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's Cohn50off at factormeals.com/Cohn50off for 50% off plus free shipping. So it's 50% off plus free shipping. That's just such a good deal.
They're definitely a factor.
As opposed to DoorDash, which is so not a factor. So anyway, just want to throw that out there. Links in the description. Mykel Williams. This is so interesting. So Albert Breer come out with his weekly column today, and he has a section about the Niners, and he's saying that he thinks there's a chance the NFL will rue letting Mykel Williams get to 11. It's all about why Mykel Williams is going to be good on the Niners, and he just throws this in there, kind of buries the lead. I'll read it. He says, when John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan sat down with Mykel Williams on his 30 visit and asked him, third down in the Super Bowl, where do you want us to line you up? His answer was over the guard, illustrating his versatility and the tough guy nature to his game apparent in how he played through the injury. That's Breer's take. What is your takeaway from Mykel Williams saying that?
You know, that's what he's used to. That's why when we analyzed the draft picks, that was my thing with Mykel. It's not that I don't think he will be good on the 49ers or in the wide nine. It's just he didn't do it in college. So it's hard to predict. I mean, he has the physical traits to be successful there. He doesn't have a ton of pass rush mechanic skills outside of bull rush and speed. So he's going to have to develop that. He's a young guy, though, 20 years old. But that was my thing with Mykel. Again, I'm not saying he won't be good. He could be fantastic on the 49ers, but he didn't do that in college, what he's going to be asked to do on the 49ers. Or is he? I don't know what the 49ers are going to ask him to do. Maybe they'll mix it up. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they can have your tier growth models out there at the same time. I'm not sure. But I did think it was interesting to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like Breer frames this as Mykel's toughness. But to me, this explains where he's confident. He's more confident rushing from the interior than rushing from the edge. So that means he's going to be an interior rusher on third down. I mean, if you're playing to his strengths, he'll play on the edge on first and second down, and he'll set a really good edge, and he'll have some power. But for him to be an actual edge rusher full-time, he's going to need to really improve his bag, his arsenal, and that's going to take time, and he may never get there, and he might have success rushing from the interior and just stick there. So he could be kind of like Michael Bennett from 10, 15 years ago. He was a guy who was like, I mean, more recently, Charles Omenihu or Arden Key, like a better version of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, they could mix it up, you know, like have Yatura in there at the same time on the outside on third downs and have Mykel on the inside. The best thing, I mean, one of the best things that Mykel has going for him is he's so young, man. He's 20 years old. Whatever he is now is not who he's going to be in 3-4 years. I mean, he doesn't even have his mature body, and he's like 6'5", 260. He's got 3-4 years of development just physically. where he's going to transform into somebody else. So I imagine that the same thing's going to happen with his game. I think it's actually probably a good thing to have that flexibility of using him on the inside, on the outside, throw the teams off. Robert Saleh will mix things up. Again, I think Yatura might be more involved than people think. So I think it's a good thing. Honestly, I think it's actually a really good thing. And this doesn't surprise me because he didn't do it in college. And that was my immediate reaction when we drafted him. It's just like, could be really good, but we don't have a track record of seeing him do it in his college career.
If he turns out to be an interior rusher on third downs and you put him next to Nick Bosa and he's the defensive tackle like Charles Omenihu was, and he's good in that role, I think it's still a good draft pick. If you get good run defense on the edge on first and second down and good interior pressure on third down, I still think that's a good draft pick. Now he'll have to prove that he can do that, but I also think that if you look back at Bosa's career, his two best seasons by far, 21 and 22. In each of those seasons, he had a smaller defensive end who played defensive tackle on third down right next to him. It was Arden Key, and then it was Charles Omenihu. So maybe Mykel Williams playing defensive tackle on third down next to Bosa can sort of bring out the best of both of them. Remember 10, 15 years ago, Justin Smith, the impact he had on Alden Smith and vice versa, playing next to each other.
Yeah, and it's weird, in my memory, for some reason, I always thought Justin Smith was a D tackle, and I went and looked it up recently, and he actually played 90% of his snaps at D end, but I just remember him being most effective when he was lined up next to Alden Smith.
Well, he was drafted by the Bengals, and he played 4-3 D end for a long time, and then he came to the Niners, and they sort of moved him to 3-4 D end, and then he would play D tackle in like the nickel defense. But yeah, he was about 290 pounds, and when he was drafted, he was like 265.
And it seems like the biggest highlights that I remember from him is when him and Alden were side by side, and they were just wrecking. Like, it was impossible to stop both of those guys at the same time. So, but I thought like, the Alfred Collins and CJ West would be there on the inside, and we'd have Mykel and Bosa on the outside. And I thought those guys, that to me actually sounds more attractive still. Having those big dudes in the middle that are going to demand a double team. With you have all four of those guys, Bosa and those other rookies and Mykel all lined up. Like, who do you double in that situation? It creates problems for offensive line. So I would like to see Mykel develop into an outside pass rusher. I think ultimately that would be great, but it is good to see that there's some flexibility there.
I think it's interesting that the Niners asked him this question on his 30 visit, and he said, I want to rush over the guard, and they drafted him anyway. So they know this clearly their vision for him. They didn't explain it, but this to me seems to reveal it. Maybe he'll develop into a really good edge rusher, but I think early in his career, he's going to be rushing more from the interior. So to me, what that says is on third down, they'll probably take CJ West off the field. Maybe they'll keep Alfred Collins on the field, put him in the A gap, put Mykel Williams in a B gap as rushing over a guard, and Bosa will be on one edge, and I don't know who the other edge rusher will be. So maybe the Niners should go sign a Carl Lawson, or I don't know if they have like the cap space to go trade for Hassan Reddick or Bryce Huff, but they could probably use another edge rusher.
What I like about it is line them outside and then have them stunt, come inside, like that.
Or vice versa, line them up inside and have them stunt to the outside.
Yeah, might be really effective in that. If he likes rushing over the guard, line him outside and bring him inside.
Yep.
And he can just bull rush the guard. So I think, and I'm excited to see this defense under Robert Saleh with these new rookies. He's got a lot of, pieces to play with.
Yeah. And if they're going to be running like stunts in games, when Fangio did that back in the day, he did it with Justin Smith, because Justin Smith was so strong and so dominant that he could really tie up multiple blockers and free up all. Like, there were a lot of times where Alden Smith was unblocked coming around those things because Justin Smith was so good. Justin Smith would also get flagged for holding on those plays, like the rare defensive holding penalty on a defensive lineman. So I wonder who's going to be able to do that. Is it Mykel Williams, or is that more of like an Alfred Collins job? You know what I mean? It's almost like the guy setting the screen in basketball. Who's going to tie everyone up? I don't know. I guess we'll see.
And, one thing that we are assuming too, and I think a lot of us are hopeful. When I say we, I mean Niner fans, not necessarily you, but it's not often that all your draft picks hit, right? And like we're assuming that all three of these defensive linemen that the 49ers drafted are going to be guys, and maybe they will be, but it's not often that that happens where you're hitting on every single pick. I'm encouraged by this draft, and I think they will, but what happens if one of these guys is not ready to go, needs development, or is a complete bust? So that's what's interesting. There's so many changes on this team, particularly on the defense this year. It's going to make it really interesting to watch and see how it unfolds.
It's a lot of pressure drafting an edge rusher who's not an edge rusher. A guy who's a D end, but he's kind of a D tackle. Guys got to be really good to justify that pick. Like you tried to do that with Solomon Thomas and it didn't work out. I'm not saying Mykel Williams is Solomon Thomas because he's not. It's a whole different body type, but still that same kind of like, what position are you? And then, the Niners took on Cleveland Farrell as a reclamation project, but he was the 4th pick in the draft and he has the same body type as Mykel Williams. And he ended up being like the bad version of what Mykel Williams could be, a guy who's good against the run and you have to move him under the interior on 3rd down. And even when you do that, he's not a particularly productive pass rusher. So that would be the nightmare, is that the Niners just drafted Cleveland Farrell with the 11th pick. I don't think they did, but I mean, the Raiders took Cleveland Farrell with the 4th pick for a lot of the same reasons the Niners took Mykel Williams. Great program, won a championship. He even had a bunch of pass rushing production in college. So that's the downside, the scare.
And, wide receivers, pass rushers, wide receivers, D end, they have the biggest bust rate in the NFL draft, like statistically. So, it was a concern of mine. Like, again, this guy has all the makings of somebody that could be really good in the NFL. It's just we didn't get to see him do it in college. So what they're going to ask him to do on the 49ers is different from what he did in college. Outside of, setting the edge against the run, he did that very well, but not quite as wide outside. So that's why I said, hey, it's kind of a boomer bust pick. I don't think he's going to be a bust. I like the kid. I like his makeup. I like his physical attributes, but not seeing it in college, and just you have to kind of picture it transitioning to the NFL instead of like something easily that you can see transferring.
Yeah. So wherever he ends up rushing, whether it's over the guard or over the tackle, you're going to have to be good at it. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. Dave Sims says, "To my favorite people, love you guys grinding." Thank you, Dave.
Dave's sponsoring the channel now. Shout out to Dave.
Shout out to Dave.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, let's talk Malik Mustafa. It was reported that he could miss the beginning of the season. He could start the season on PUP list. That seems to be Matt Mayoko's guesstimation, which makes sense. I mean, he's towards ACL in January. But at the same time, Malik Mustafa's mom is on Twitter/X talking about how he's moving really well and seems to be ahead of schedule. What do you make of all this?
Well, the original report that came out that they were responding to said that he wouldn't be back until mid-season. And that's the one that they really took issue with. I did speak to somebody off the record about it, and I based on what they said, I tend to think that there's no chance it's mid-season. Possible Matt Mayoko is correct, and he starts up on the PUP, misses 4 games. But I think that's the most of it. Whoever came out with that report that said mid-season, I think is off. I think Malik most likely will be there by game 5, if not much sooner, based on the people I talked to also.
Yeah, mid-season is such a vague thing to say. I mean, if you're reporting something back mid-season, you could say that could be week 5. That could be week 15. It's in the middle there somewhere. Right. So, yeah, I can see why, maybe Malik's camp took issue with that, because from his perspective, it looks like he's moving. He's not in crutches. He was golfing this weekend. He seems like he's
planning on being there. He's planning on being there week 1. So I'll put it that way. That's his goal and that's his intention. We'll see. Maybe he does have to start off on the PUP, but it's not going to be mid-season. So there's a lot of worry about him missing a ton of time. I don't think he's going to miss as much time as been reported. Worst case, I think, is week 5 he'll be there.
Yeah, and I think you got to remember the mindset of certain players. Like if Malik Mustafa were 27 and he'd already gotten a second contract and he had guaranteed money, maybe he'd really be cautious. But he's a second-year player. He was a 4th-round pick. He's not making a lot of money. You got a new defensive coordinator who didn't pick you and brought in 2 safeties that he handpicked himself and Richie Grant and Jason Pinnock. If I were Myles Mustafa, I'd want to be there as quickly as I can to show him that I'm tough and that I'm good and that he should like me, even though he doesn't know me as well as he knows Richie Grant and Jason Pinnock. He drafted Jason Pinnock, man. I'd be threatened by that. I'd want to be there. Don't fall in love with someone else.
And really, I would not be surprised based on what I heard that if he's there week 1. I think it's entirely possible for Mykel Mustafa to be available week 1. Not necessarily going to happen. I think between week 1 and week 5 is when we'll see Mykel. I don't think it's this mid-season thing that was reported originally. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's encouraging news. And Mykel is one of my favorite rookies from last year, one of my favorite players on the team. And I think they need him, really, because I don't want to roll with Pinnock and Brown. I don't want to do that. So I definitely think Mykel needs to be in the mix. I'd rather see Mykel and Pinnock or Mykel and the rookie versus that combination.
That's what I was going to say. Like when Mykel comes back, I wouldn't be surprised if Pinnock stays in the lineup and Brown goes to the bench, because to me, I'm not really sure what Brown does so well. He was promising at times as a rookie, but last year it felt like he was never around the ball. And whenever he was actually in coverage, man to man, he was roasted. Not sure. He was bad last year.
I will say he was not good last year. Brown was very encouraging his rookie year when he got in. Not good last year, but I will say Nick Sorensen probably not the best coordinator for anybody. So
True.
Having Robert Saleh back, it also wouldn't surprise me if Brown takes a step forward this year, or has a bounce back season and develops into the player that he looked like he was going to become as a rookie under Wilkes. So I think Robert Saleh can bring back Brown a little bit too. So even though Brown wasn't very impressive his sophomore season, I think he might actually be better than we think as well.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, he was handpicked by Steve Wilkes, who knows what he's doing, knows what he's looking for. And when he was coached by Steve Wilkes, he was pretty good. So I guess it just comes down to whether Robert Saleh wants to coach him, sees him as a fit in his system. I mean, it seems like at free safety, Saleh wants speed that Jair Brown doesn't have. That's why I feel like Pinnock is here, and why Marcus Siegel is here. That's another guy who's super fast and a guy who can kind of double as a nickelback, kind of like Jimmy Ward. So Brown to me is going to have to make it as a strong safety here. I mean, to me, honestly, like he's the kind of guy that Robert Saleh would move to linebacker.
Brown.
Yeah, he moved Eric Reed to freaking linebacker. He had Jamie and Sherwood playing linebacker at 216 pounds. I'm curious to see what happens with Jair.
Yeah, he's one of the unknowns, I think, coming into this season. Like again, a lot of encouragement his rookie season, and then last year, not so great. But I think Saleh, if anybody can bring him back, is Saleh. So we'll see. It is interesting. The rookie, is it Siegel or Seigel? Because I don't want to pronounce this guy's name wrong.
I think it's Siegel from everything I've heard.
Okay,
Marcus.
He's a burner. He's a burner, dude. So,
or it could be Marquise.
I like his talent.
I like him too. Okay, so the draft is over. Free agency is over. They've had a couple additional signings this past week in Ross Dwelly and DJ Humphries. Now that they've brought Ross Dwelly back and made other moves that were almost as important, are you more or less optimistic about the 49ers heading into this season?
I think I'm more optimistic than I was before the draft. I think they had a pretty good draft, and they addressed the trenches on the defensive side, which was a big issue. We'll see how these guys work out. I think this is the optimistic time of year, right? After the draft, as a fan, you're hopeful that every single one of these picks is going to work out. Not likely, but you're hopeful. They needed 3 defensive linemen in this draft. They got 3 defensive linemen who I like. So that is definitely encouraging. And then signing DJ Humphries is actually, I really like that one as well. Like, he's been beat up and injured quite a bit. He was not good on the Chiefs, but I think that probably had a lot to do with his injury. Now more time has passed, and if he's just a depth piece, that's great, because the reality is, knock on wood, hopefully it's not the case, but Trent Williams is not going to play a full season. Most likely. He typically doesn't over the last few years. So at some point, he's going to need to step in and play. And he's a Pro Bowl talent. He's a first-round talent. And the 49ers don't have any other first-round talents on the team outside of Trent Williams. So it's very encouraging that they addressed that as well. So I am more hopeful in this season, particularly because they have the easiest freaking schedule in the NFL, according to the statistic that you sent over to me this morning. So they, I expect them to have a good season. The key is, are these rookies going to develop? Is Christian McCaffrey going to be healthy? Is Brock Purdy going to bounce back from his last season, which wasn't great? Those are the big questions. And if they can do that, plus they got Ross Dwelly. I mean,
can you imagine Kittle, Farrell, and Dwelly on the field at the same time? Like, what would defenses? How could they even begin to defend that? Yeah. Who are you double covering? Is it Dwelly? It's hard to say.
It is.
I feel like I'm more optimistic too. I mean, I think bringing Saleh back to the organization, it was a great move. But like, once you finally saw him make moves or like put together his defense, I think it made me more optimistic because I see what he's trying to put together. And I don't think he's done, but you can't do it in one off season. He clearly prioritized run defense. That makes sense to me. I think that's what you handle first, because if you can't stop the run, then you can't rush the quarterback. But if you can stop the run, at least you give yourself opportunities. And they have Nick Bosa, who's an elite pass rusher, and you have Robert Saleh, who can sort of scheme up the rest. And maybe he doesn't have enough talent to do it right now. Nick Martin's a pass rush threat. He's a blitzer. So is Upton Stout. So we haven't really seen Saleh's vision for that. But they're like one trade away. They could figure out that, like, Mykel's really an interior rusher, and we really do need one more edge rusher on third down. They can make that trade mid-season. There could be guys available. I mean, they may not be done, is one thing I want to say. And so I'm very optimistic about the defense, even though it's young. I think we've seen the Rams have a lot of success with the young defense the last couple of years. The Eagles as well. If you got a good coordinator, it can be done. Offense.
Before you go offense, I want to just touch on that. I can't see how they could be worse than last year. They may not be Steve Wilkes' defense that went to the Super Bowl, but they're not going to be worse than last year. I mean, everyone talks about losing Greenlaw and Huff. Well, they didn't even play last year, so it's going to be an improvement upon last year for sure. I'd bet money on that. Now,
last year's defense was interesting too, because like they gave up so many points, 29th most in the league, but they only gave up 5.2 yards per play, which was 8th fewest. So in certain ways, their defense wasn't awful. I mean, they still have some really good players in Fred Warner and Bosa and Lenore at all three levels, and now you have a much better coordinator. Like, they could have a top 5 defense next year in terms of yards allowed. They could.
I think it's possible. Yeah.
Now with the offense, you made a good point for DJ Humphries. That was a good signing, because that's a starting caliber player who might be on the bench. Nice to have that. I mean, I think he's probably an improvement over Jalen Moore as a left. I think he's a better left tackle than Jalen Moore. I could be wrong. He was hurt last year, but if healthy, I think he's better. Connor Colby and Drew Moss, we'll see. Late 7th round pick and an undrafted free agent. They both are really good athletes with short arms who have experience in his own blocking system. So guys who could be good run blockers for the Niners probably won't help much in pass protection. It's kind of par for the course. Fine. I like the running back picks. It's like, you need guys who can get all the tough yards that Jordan Mason got, because that's not Garendo and it's not McCaffrey anymore. And you got Jordan James and Corey Kiner, both guys who are very tough runners. Both guys who should make the team or could make the team. So I like that. You added another wide receiver. It's a little, not where I would have taken him, but he seems super talented. He runs a 4.3. He's about 5'11". I think I'm more optimistic about the team. I think I am. Now, I'm not optimistic that Trent Williams is going to play a lot, or that McCaffrey's going to play a lot, or that Purdy's going to play a full season. I think you have so many questions on offense. Even Kittle, like, how many games is Kittle going to miss? How many games is Purdy going to miss? How many games is Trent going to miss? How many games is Ayuk going to play? Those are the big questions.
They're not going to only win 6 games, I would hope. Like that, they got to do better than that. So there'll be an improvement in that regard. I'm not so sure about this Connor Colby, whether he'll even touch the field next year. To be real, I'm not sure he'll even be a factor. Maybe he will. But a 7th, what is he, 7th rounder, right? 7th?
You know who I'm interested in? Nick Zakel. They drafted him like 3-4 years ago.
Mhm.
4 years ago. You've been developing him all this time. Is there anything there? Because, I'm sure you'll give Spencer Burford a chance, and maybe he's improved since we saw him in the Super Bowl, but they've never really been that happy with Spencer Burford. Ben Bartch hasn't been able to stay healthy in his career. Is there anything there with Mykel, or are these late round projects that the Niners take on at fruitless at offensive line?
I think the only way these guys even touch the field is if there's a ton of injury at the position. I think you're Ben Bar. I really think Burford is your swing guard. Bart starts. I think Humphries is your swing tackle. And I think they will with Brindell. Maybe Nick Zakelj is your backup center. But I really just, to me, you need to be drafting these guys early if you want talent. Now, the Niners have been known not to do that, right? With Colton McKivitz, Brindell was undrafted, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He was a project guy that came to fruition. I don't know. I think offensively, I'm not as optimistic. Offensively, I don't know what they're going to be doing, particularly because the wide receiver position worries me a little bit. Like Brandon Ayuk, when is he going to come back? What's he going to look like? And I know we're going to get into positions and stuff, but that's one position I'm a little concerned about. So offensively, I think they'll be pretty close to the same, much better, obviously, if CMC is healthy. But having that defense has carried the 49ers in all their successful years under Kyle Shanahan. It's been the defense that's carried the team and got them to where they went. And so that's kind of the hope for this team this year with Robert Saleh and these new guys.
Yeah. I keep going back to the offensive line, and I feel like Kyle's done his best to sort of program Niner fans to believe it doesn't matter, which is amazing because the rest of the league seems to think it does. And so they got rid of Aaron Banks. And God, they were so they looked at Banks like they looked at McGlinchey, like, man, we took you in the second round and you're just not that good. And he's not great. He's not a Pro Bowl player. But I mean, over the last 2 seasons, he's given up 1 sack. So that's why he got $19 million a year from the Packers. He's a good player, not a great player. And now the replacement, maybe it's Ben Bartch. Better hope it's Ben Bartch, because if it's Spencer Burford, he didn't really play much last year. The year before, he gave up 6 sacks. The year before that, he gave up 5. And he was never a full-time player. So you're going from a solid left guard who's not going to get Brock Purdy hurt to a not-so-solid left guard who you don't know what's going to happen with him. So if Brock Purdy goes down, this team is so freaking screwed. Although I know, I'm the biggest Mac Jones fan, so I'm going to take that back. But you want to keep your quarterback healthy, especially if you're going to give him a lot of money.
I mean, it could be the opposite way, right? Burford could actually start at left guard, and Bartch could be your backup. Bartch doesn't have a long history of being able to stay healthy, and you want the guy that can stay healthy to probably be the starter. So it could be
for
Burford.
The sake of continuity, yeah.
Yeah, you could see Burford being the starter and maybe Bartch backing him up. But I do think either way, Burford and Bartch are both going to play at left guard this year, and I do think Humphries is going to play at left tackle at some this year, just based on the history with Trent. I think this 49ers offensive line, they're like middle of the pack. They're not as bad as some fans think they are. They're not nearly as good as some people try to act like. Shout out to Rich Madrid. But I think they're like between like 15 and 20. I think that's what they were last year. We'll see if they develop this year. Colton McKivitz is in a contract year, so he might just ball out. He's going to get paid and be gone. Colton McKivitz is going to –
a motivated Colton McKivitz, watch out.
Yeah. Hey, real talk. He might.
No, but real talk, though, okay, so he might have a better year. He's been slowly improving. That's fair. Pooney could have a better year. Brendel's getting older. Trent's getting older. You got worse at left guard. So I still think it's fair to wonder. And then find, like, what's the weakest position on the team after all of this? To me, it's the offensive line still, and you could argue it's not as weak as people think, or it's this or that. It's weaker than it was last year. Pooney improving, yes. McKivitz could improve, sure, but Trent Williams is not improving. Jake Brendel's not improving, and Spencer Burford or Bartch is a step down from Aaron Banks, who gave up 1 sack the last 2 years. So to me, it's still the offensive line.
It might be the offensive line depth. I don't know if Ben Bartch is a downgrade from Aaron Banks. At least in the game and a half we saw him play, he looked better than Aaron Banks. Now, a small sample size, so who knows how that would look over 17 games.
But if he can play 17 games.
If he can play 17 games.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned about the wide receivers, man. I really am. I think Ricky looked positive last year, but like, what is he? Is he an X? Like, what is Ricky Pearsall? Like,
I don't think he's an X.
He's not an X.
I don't think so. So like a flanker, I guess.
So who's the X on this team while Brandon Ayuk's not there?
Juwan, who's also not, I mean, he's physical enough to beat the press. It's just that he runs a 5 flat 40. So once he beats the press, he's not really threatening the defense vertically the way Ayuk did.
Right. So without Brandon Ayuk, man, I like.
It's not Cowing. He's 5'8".
Right. Demarcus Robinson's going to miss 3 games, most likely. I don't think it's been announced
Demarcus
yet.
Robinson, I would suppose. I mean, it's Jennings in 2 receiver sets, which is not ideal. And then in 3 receiver sets, it's Robinson, who's super mid. And then you drafted Jordan Watkins, and feels like he's probably going to get the Cowing treatment where he gets 6 targets this year.
Yeah, I don't really expect much from Watkins. Could be wrong. I don't even really see him playing that much this year. I think we see more from Junior Burgeon at return man, possibly. I don't know, man. Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings are your 2 receivers. I love Jawan Jennings. Don't get me wrong, but he's a possession receiver. He's a blocker. He's not like some dude that's going to just route you up and go deep on you and burn you. Like, they don't really have that guy. So I think I'm
like a tight end. Like, if you put a corner on him, he can block that guy into the end zone. And if you put a safety on him, he can beat that guy man to man. He's a good player, but I almost think of him more as like a small tight end.
Yeah, and I think Andre makes a good point right here. A wide receiver room is full of wide receiver 2s and 3s. That's how I look at it. Even Brandon Ayuk, I really like him. He's a really good wide receiver 2. That's what Brandon Ayuk is, in my opinion. He's one of the best. But they don't have that guy.
Now, to be fair to them, I think part of the reason they have a bunch of wide receiver 2s, I would say like the Chiefs are the same, because they have the best tight end. And when healthy, he should be getting the lion's share of the targets on this team. Like, George Kittle's such a great player, and I feel like you could argue they haven't given him the ball enough in his career, although he's usually hurt. So maybe there's like more to it that we don't understand, and they're trying to manage him and like keep him durable for the rest of the season. But he is their number 1 target. I feel like he might be the biggest mismatch in football. I mean, who can cover George Kittle? You know, like, you're either too small or not fast enough. He seems like he's usually open. So I understand having like a bunch of complementary players. And like, I think Pearsall and Jennings are both like, I think Jennings is a hell of a number 2. He was seen as like a solid number 3. I think he's a good number 2, even though he's slow. And I think Pearsall has the ability to be a good number 2 as well. So, I mean, it's not terrible. And I do like what they've added at running back. I think moving on from Debo, and look, I love Jordan Mason, but he got hurt and he fumbled. He did. Now you get a guy in Jordan James who never fumbled in college, is a little smaller, but runs like him and was durable. Like, I like that pick. And Kiner, I mean, he's got smaller hands than me apparently, but he runs hard too. So gotta like him.
One of the pluses, I guess, with the offense and with the receivers is not having Debo. I think is going to open things up for Kyle. Like, is there really even a go-to guy anymore? Which is a good thing. I mean that in a good way, right? Like, when Debo was there, there's like, oh, we got to feed Debo. And he wasn't up to the task last season. So not having him there, maybe it's more of like just spread the ball around, which is
more targets for Kittle, more targets for Pearsall, more targets for Jennings, and more for Ayuk when he gets back.
Yeah.
Frankly, like when Ayuk comes back, if he makes a full recovery, which he may, I think the meniscus thing makes you wonder, like, how's his knee going to hold up long term? Is there going to be bone on bone stuff? But for now, he should be pretty good when he comes back. Ayuk, Jennings, Pearsall, Kittle, McCaffrey, if he's healthy and managed properly and not overused as a running back and used more as like a, Jahmyr Gibbs type. It's pretty good, man. I don't want to hear what I heard last year. Oh, this team is last in separation. Like, no, that's a good 5 eligible receivers on the field. It's good.
Good. They just don't have that guy. You know what I'm saying? And with Ayuk meniscus, I'll just say this from experience. My son, tore his meniscus junior year, senior year, came back, jumped higher than ever, got a full ride scholarship. So
there you go.
I mean, he looks better than ever on his jumping knee. So
I don't know if your son could play tight end at 32, but yeah, or wide receiver. But yeah, to your point, I think Ayuk should be fine in the short term. I think the question more is like long term. But I don't know anything about medical any stuff or really much in life. But I talk.
Yeah.
Joseph for real says love empowered players. Sure, a rookie is making requests, but the degree of aura being a first rounder allows that. It shows drive, and I hope everyone is heard. And keep in mind, the Niners asked Mykel Williams, like, where do you want to be in the biggest play of the season? And he said, his honest answer, which you got to respect. Okay. Now it's prize pick time. We got Warriors. Nope. Where you at? Hold on. Got to bring him back. Oh. Hold on. Hold on. There it is. Okay. So the Warriors won last night. We're going to talk about them. They're playing Minnesota. Let's get straight to the picks. Draymond.
When is
Curry,
that game?
Butler. Huh? It's got to be tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah. Quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Who do you like?
Who do I like?
Buddy? How about we start with Buddy?
Yeah, I'm going to drop. I'm going to take the under on Buddy.
You don't think you can do it 2 games in a row?
That'd be tough, man. He had an unbelievable game last game. I would be shocked. What's the count on that?
9.5.
Oh, actually, I'm going to go up. I think they figured
like they
out.
need Buddy. Like they need him to be aggressive and take those shots.
They need another scorer out there besides.
It's not Pods. He's not that good of a shooter.
No. They need. Yeah, I'm gonna take the over on this. I think he'll get that.
Pods is out there trying to get charges.
Yeah. Wait, what is it? What is that? 6.5 3-points attempted? Was that what you took?
Why did I do that? That happened. Okay, so hold on. That's not what I wanted to press. I wanted to do points. And it moved. It moves on you sometimes. Hold on. It moved, Jerry. It moved. Okay.
That's probably not a bad one either, though, to be real. But yeah, I think
6.5 3-points. That's a lot.
I think 9.5 points is the
okay. All right, let's go Curry. What do you think? 26.5 points, assists.
I don't know. He averaged 22. Now that Houston Rockets defense, one of the best defenses in the NBA, if not, I think they're top 2, right? The Warriors.
I don't think the Minnesota has it like that. I mean, they have Gobert, but that's not really going to affect Curry.
Yeah, I would take the over on that for Steph.
Okay. All right. It does seem like his thumb's been bothering him a little bit, but I still take the over on that. What about Butler? And then we'll do Anthony Edwards. 22.5 for Butler. He still seems hurt to me.
Yeah, Butler's definitely playing hurt. I don't know if all these guys can be over. Somebody's got to
go west with Butler.
Okay.
That's smart. And then we'll get a Timberwolf. I don't know what a Timberwolf, how it's differentiated from a regular wolf, but
yeah,
T-Wolf. Rudy Gobert. Okay, 8.5 rebounds for Rudy.
No, I'm gonna say over on that. The rebounds. Yeah.
8.5. I like that. There? And then where is Anthony? Mike Conley still in the league. That's incredible. Edwards. Okay. Where your points at? 28.5
points.
28.5. He had 15 in the last game.
I'm gonna say no. I like Anthony Edwards. He besides Steph, he's probably my second favorite player to watch right now. Reminds me. He doesn't remind. I'm not saying he's Jordan, but he's the way he approaches the game reminds me of Jordan a little bit. So he's fun to watch.
I agree. And it doesn't seem like he's trying to be everyone's friend, and I like that. Okay, flexing it, submitting it. Download the app yourself. Use promo code Cohn. Play $5, get 50 instantly, whether you win or lose if it's your first play. All right, back to the show. Do you think Kyle Shanahan is in danger of losing his job? Like, is there anything that could happen this year where he would be held accountable to the highest extent and replaced?
I thought after last season when he went 6-11 that there was a chance, if he missed the playoffs, that he would be fired. But at this point, no. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey stayed healthy and they paid Brock and Brock sucked or something like that, and they missed the playoffs with the easiest NFL schedule, I still think it's only possible that Jed York would hold them accountable. I think Jed York is so comfortable with where the 49ers are at from a coaching standpoint. I think he loves John Lynch. I think he loves Kyle Shanahan. I think he was stressed out over the money. They took that power away from them, kind of. They, reduced their spending. I think it's a money thing for York. I don't think there's much that Kyle Shanahan can do outside of insult Jed York personally that would put him at risk of losing his job. I think he's here for a while.
I see what you mean. That's a good point. You could be right. Probably right. Let me paint a scenario for you. You said he loves Lynch and he loves Kyle. Not gonna be true. You know who else Jed York seems to love, like really love?
Saleh.
Robert Saleh. I mean, that was kind of evident during the draft, right? He was giddy. Look who's back, the trenches. Okay. So what if the defense is really good this year with all these rookies and people around the league like, man, look what Robert Saleh did. He just went over there and drafted 5 rookies, played them instantly a good defense. That guy is the truth. Well, he got screwed over by the Jets. And what if the Niners offense kind of does a reboot of last year? McCaffrey can't really carry him anymore, and he's in and out, and Trent's in and out, and Brock's kind of not as great as he was in 2023 because he doesn't have the supporting cast, and the offense is sort of a repeat. But Saleh comes back and kills it, and then next year he's right back in the head coaching cycle, and it looks like he's going to be one and done with the 49ers, while Kyle is over here in the midst of like a 2-year struggle, and he's aging right in front of our freaking eyes. Is it possible that like all of that could work against him?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's possible. Again, they have the easiest schedule in the NFL this year, according to whatever statistics you popped out. So, with that being said, you have to perform. You got Christian McCaffrey back healthy, supposedly. You just extended your guy, Brock Purdy, made him a franchise quarterback. There's really no excuses to not having success this year. I think it's possible. I just think he just loves the hell out of some Kyle Shanahan. I think he's very content in that situation. I think it would have to be just an embarrassment this coming season. It would have to be an embarrassing performance by Kyle Shanahan in order for that to happen.
I think you could love Kyle Shanahan and also have concerns about Kyle Shanahan and be like, look, is he still the coach we hired? Like, it's been 9 years, but it looks like he's aged 15. And last year he looked burnt out. Like, he looked visibly tired, and he didn't seem to have any like good ideas. Like, Christian McCaffrey went down, and it seemed like his creativity went away with him because they still had a lot of talent, but their offense was super inconsistent. So if he has a repeat of that after bringing back Juszczyk and extending multiple players and spending all this money to keep this offense together, if it struggles once again, they could look at him and be like, man, he's burnt out. And we're going to lose Saleh. Like, that's the future of our organization right there. Like, Kyle, I mean, remember the Niners pushed out Bill Walsh after 10 years because they felt he was burnt out and replaced him with his defensive coordinator. Jed hasn't had an original idea in his life. Sorry, Jed. He could just do what Eddie did,
Yeah. I think Kyle's going to be rejuvenated. I think he was burnt out last season. Coming off that long Super Bowl loss really burnt him out. And then CMC goes down. Brandon Ayuk goes down. The negotiations with Brandon Ayuk, the negotiations with Trent. I think Kyle was absolutely burnt out. And you didn't see any creativity at all from him in the offense. And I think this season, he doesn't really have to deal with any of that. He had a lot of time off. I think you're going to see a rejuvenated Kyle Shanahan taking advantage of this easy schedule, relying on that defense to play complementary football and improve special teams unit. I think the 49ers are going to do well. I think their record's going to be a lot better. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl this season, unfortunately, but I think they're going to be improved, and I think that's going to be more than enough for Jed York. And I do think we're going to see Kyle in his bag more. I think he's probably had a lot of time off to think about what he's going to do this season without Deebo Samuel, and I think it's going to look a little different this coming season.
I think there's a lot of pressure on him to perform and to rebuild his reputation as like a top level play caller, because Saleh could get a lot of the credit if the Niners turn things around. The defense was the problem. He's going to be starting 3, 4, 5 rookies. If that defense is top 5, top 10, he's going to get so much freaking credit from everyone, fans, media, players. And Kyle likes the credit. So this would be a good year for Kyle to like have a new idea, do something creative. You know what I mean? Like rejuvenated was the word you used. He needs to show that he's rejuvenated and that the offense is rejuvenated, because the defense is most likely going to look very rejuvenated with Salah out there screaming on the sidelines and a bunch of rookies going nuts if it all goes according to plan. Meanwhile, Kyle's got Juszczyk on the field still, which could work, but it's the same group. It needs to look rejuvenated in some. So where's the rejuvenation coming from on offense? Jordan James.
It's got to come from Kyle.
It's got to come from Kyle. Yeah.
Yeah. And, Salah is such a likable character, likable guy. If Kyle's not having success, Kyle's not very likable, and be real. Like, and I don't mean that as like an insult to the guy. He's just not like a personality that you're drawn to. Like, oh, I love this guy's personality. I don't think anyone really says that about Kyle. They say that about Robert.
Charmer.
Not a charmer. Not very charismatic.
No.
Right?
Salah is.
Salah
is.
Right. Exactly. So, no one gives a damn if you're having success and you're winning. Right. What people like about him is he can deliver wins, and his offense in the past was pretty creative. So he's got to get back to that. Otherwise, yeah, it could be a problem. But I really expect him to take a step forward or a step back forward to where he was previously.
I don't feel like the Yorks are confident that they could ever replace Kyle Shanahan with someone better unless it's Salah. Like, I don't think because I think they're scared about what happened with Harbaugh, replacing him with Tom Sula and then Chip Kelly. I don't think they're the most connected owners in the league. I don't think they necessarily have the best reputation and can just go get the best coaching guy out. Like, they had no chance to get Sean McVay 9 years ago. They got Kyle because there was a connection with his dad. His dad coached here. So
would Salah do that to Kyle?
Probably not, but it would be interesting to see if the Niners could do it in a way like they did it with Bill Walsh and George Seifert. Like, we're not firing you, Kyle. You're retiring. You're stepping away. You're burnt out.
Yeah.
Got it? That's what they did to Walsh, apparently.
Didn't they make him like president or something, Walsh?
Yeah. Do that with Kyle, man. You need a year. And then like Sean Payton took a year away, and then he finally came back, and the Broncos traded him, I believe, to the Broncos. Excuse me, the Saints traded him to the Broncos. Maybe the Niners could do something like that. Kyle, take a year. We'll trade you to wherever you want to go.
Right. I really don't see it happening. I think Kyle does bounce back this year, in part because of Salah. I think Kyle's pretty safe. It would have to be disastrous. It would have to be embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, missing the playoffs with the league's easiest schedule after you brought back Robert Saleh would be pretty embarrassing. So yeah, there is something at stake, but I don't really think it's going to happen either. I think this team's going to be probably better than we expect. Speaking of teams that are better than we expect, Leeds United. Leeds United has gotten promoted to the English Premier League. We're all very, very excited. Niners are excited. Will Ferrell, Russell Crowe, Jordan Spieth, all the members of 49ers Enterprises going to get a big payday. And recently, Parag Marathe, who's running that whole operation over there, was interviewed by Front Office Sports. I would highly recommend looking this up and reading it, because he never talks as much about football, but he talked at length about soccer and their investment in Leeds United. What stuck out to you about this interview?
The thing that stuck out the most is, I don't know what the exact quote was, but him saying they're willing to spend whatever it takes. That was like, what? Like, this is the same organization that's cutting all of their spending this year with the 49ers. And what's crazy is Leeds they're not a profitable business. They lost money last year, whereas the 49ers is a profitable business, but you're willing to spend whatever it takes on a non-profitable business, but you're not willing to spend whatever it takes on a profitable business. And that's confusing to me. I don't understand that thought process.
Now, what Jed says is that these are different pools of money. Even though Niners Enterprise owns all of this, the Niners, Leeds, Rangers FC, he said that they don't affect each other at all, and just left it at that. And it's like, yeah, maybe, but it's just, I don't know anything about money or economics. I can't dispute it, but all I know is you're making these statements and you're preparing to spend a ton of money on midfielders and strikers and soccer players while you are simultaneously slashing your spending budget for linebackers and defensive linemen and offensive linemen, and you say it's a complete coincidence. Okay. Well, it looks like it's not. I can't say whether it is. It looks really bad. And it looks like it's a one-to-one cause and effect, but I guess we'll see.
I have, excuse me, I have 4 businesses. They're not billion-dollar businesses, so I'm not trying to make that comparison. But I do have 4 businesses, my family does. And when one's struggling, it does affect the other, even though you don't commingle funds. You're looking at the, profits and losses of all your businesses individually. To say it doesn't affect it is, the monies aren't tied together, right? But you're still operating all of these businesses and looking at your profits and losses of all of these businesses. So I think it absolutely has an effect on it. I just don't understand soccer maybe enough, or the business side of soccer enough, to really understand why they're investing so heavily in a team that's not profitable when they're pulling back on the NFL team that they own that is profitable. Like, that doesn't make sense to me, but maybe it's because of ignorance. I can
explain it to you. The last answer from Parag is very interesting and illuminating. So this is the question, the last question of the interview. With reports of 49ers enterprises exploring the acquisition of Scottish soccer club Rangers FC, what is the strategy for Leeds and 49ers enterprises around building a multi-club portfolio? Right? What is the brand, the grand vision here? Parag says this: it's not a multi-club ownership model in the traditional sense, where you've got feeder clubs going up to a parent club. Consider all these closed loop universes where what we are looking for are clubs that have a history of success, but by virtue of that success have great global fan bases. Call it uncut diamonds. It's what the 49ers were 25 years ago when I first got involved, needing to make them better on the field and commercially. Same thing with Leeds. Similar things in other clubs that we're focused on as well. We are first and foremost looking for that. Where can we really help grow and value, make clubs better? So the call it uncut diamonds line, where that's what really stuck out to me. He's looking for teams that have a history of success, that built a global fan base, but haven't been successful for a while, and as a result aren't making money. He looks at it as like, it's a money-making opportunity. There's all these fans. They're right there. You just have to give them something to root for. You have to give them hope. You have to make them faithful. Do you have to give them a championship? No. Right. What you got to do is just make it seem like you're taking it seriously. Invest in some players. Improve the stadium. They're making major improvements on the stadium over there. So
it's about finding teams that have large fan bases that you can be profitable with and compete, not necessarily anything else, right?
Hey, the Niners have this sleeping giant of a fan base. There's nothing for them to root for because this team freaking sucks and they know it. But if we just give them some structure and a plan, they will buy jerseys. They will buy tickets. They will pay us a lot of money. And we don't have to win a championship. We don't. We just have to have a quest for the championship. And now we can do the same thing with Leeds, who apparently, in England, there's cities that have multiple clubs. Leeds just has this one. And they used to be good, haven't been good in a while. There's a big fan base there that's dying for something to root for. So Parag's going to go sell them hope and spend on a bunch of players. Whether they win a championship or not doesn't matter. And they'll try to do the same thing in Scotland. This is what the Niners do.
Hey, honestly, man, if you take out the 49ers fandom in me, you got to respect the hustle and the business side of it. Like, it's great business, right? They see the potential to make money, and that's what it's about for them. Hopefully in the process they win a championship, but it's really good business. I can't hate on that, honestly, man. And I saw a recent report that the 49ers are selling more jerseys than the Cowboys, than any team in the NFL. So what they're doing is working from a profitability standpoint. So I can't hate on it, man. I respect the hustle.
So, but what they need for Leeds United to become he's basically saying like Leeds is the next 49ers. He's like, this is what the Niners were 25 years ago. So in my opinion, what he's saying is like the project is done with the Niners. The Niners are viable. They make a lot of money. It doesn't matter whether they win a Super Bowl or not. And we can't really extract more profitability out of the Niners. Like their profit, we've tapped that out. And so really all we can do with the Niners is spend a little bit less because we know the stadium's going to be filled up. We know we're going to get X amount of money in terms of its tickets and merch. All we got to do is maximize that by not spending too much. But I mean, Leeds could get relegated again next year. So we need to like really invest hard the next 3 years to make this stable like the Niners are. And then eventually we can go cheap with Leeds too, because we won't have to worry about them getting relegated. But now they're trying to make that a stable revenue stream. It's not yet. The Niners are a stable revenue stream, which means they can pull back a little bit.
And that's why I think, going back to what we talked about with Kyle, stability from a business standpoint is what they're after. And they found that. And Kyle helps them with that. He makes them competitive year in and year out. Hasn't won a Super Bowl, but that doesn't really matter. Are we a stable business? Now that we're a stable, profitable business, we could just lower our spending to make us a little bit more profitable and earn money. And then they're trying to do the same thing, it sounds like, on the soccer side. So good from a business standpoint, could be frustrating from a fan standpoint if you're a 49ers fan a little bit.
Yeah, because what you want is an ownership group like the Eagles, a team that's 100% focused on winning a Super Bowl,
Right.
Not having a lot of teams and making a lot of money and being profitable. Like all that's great, but a fan wants the Eagles experience, an ownership group that will spend whatever it takes, that is maniacally focused on that one team. It's what Eddie DeBartolo was, and it's what Jed York really isn't. And maybe he'll win a championship in the English Premier League and the NFL, but if he doesn't, I think this kind of explains why. Like, what is his goal? His goal is to make a lot of money, and he's doing a great job.
It's exactly what the Cowboys are doing. Like Jerry Jones, if you look at the Cowboys from like a Cowboys fan standpoint, they're not going to win a Super Bowl anytime soon, but their business is bigger than anybody's. And that's what the Niners have become. It's about like, putting butts in seats, selling jerseys, being competitive to make the fans feel like, it's always a possibility with the Niners. That's what the Cowboys do. It's the Cowboys method. So I think they kind of modeled themselves after what the Cowboys have done in that regard, and seems like they're pushing the same way with soccer. So it's a great business model. It's just, as a fan, you don't want to hear that. You want your team all in on winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, what's interesting, and then we'll move on. Compare the Niners to the Chiefs. Okay, the Chiefs have won how many Super Bowls? 3, 4? A lot.
4? Yeah.
4. And yet, the Niners are worth more money than the Chiefs. They generate more money. They're worth more money than the Chiefs. That says everything you need to know, man. Yeah. Winning a Super Bowl, for the Niners, it would make them a lot more profitable. But for any organization, it doesn't necessarily make you the uncut diamond that Parag Marathe is looking for. Like, he'd rather have a team with this that's had previous success and a global fan base than a team that like could win a bunch of championships right now, because that doesn't necessarily make you more profitable. Like, look at Kansas City.
I mean, the most profitable teams in the NFL are the Niners and the Cowboys, and they haven't won a Super Bowl in 30 years.
Teams that are institutions, teams with history.
Right.
So they're profiting off of nostalgia.
Yeah.
Hey, remember the Niners when you were growing up, how great they were? They're back. We reopened Alcatraz. Why don't you come and check it out? It's kind of like how you remembered it, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
right?
all their parents, like I got, 4 kids. They're all Niner fans because I'm a Niner fan because I got to see greatness in the 90s and 80s. They haven't seen it, but it doesn't matter because they're going to do what dad does and be a Niner fan. So yeah, they're playing off of that, the history.
Yeah. Daza says, are the wide receivers that bad, or is Purdy unable to fully utilize them? I think we said that they don't have a true number one, and I don't think that's necessarily Purdy's fault. But yeah, I think a guy like Stafford could probably utilize the wide receivers a little bit more than him.
Both. Yeah.
Both. Dave Sims, Patriot Builders of Montana, says, it's bad that most fans just want a quarterback with an arm. With respect to Brock Purdy, was there anything we needed to talk about with Brock? Was there a Brock topic we needed to talk?
Oh no, there was a report came out said he's gonna get a contract. I forget who it was by. Let me pull it up. It's
Was
actually
it
they say he's
the
gonna get,
Athletic, right? Mike Jones, or who, I'm not sure his name.
yeah, Mike Jones said he's gonna get a contract close to 50 million, which is what I predicted 49 a long time ago. You and I were talking about 50 last week. So it sounds like Mike Jones believes the same thing. Sounds like Brock's gonna get around 50.
I think if Brock, it's funny, he says around 50. That sounds to me like less than 50, which I think the Niners are okay giving him like $49.9 million a year. I just don't think they want to give him the 5. And I think that Brock would be smart not to take the 5. I think he'd be smart to get this done before OTAs in a few weeks. Take the 4. It's going to be a high 4. You'll be looked at as a freaking hero, and you'll be stupid rich. And you're only really haggling over a few $1,000,000 a year, and really you're not going to get that. It's just more like the headline. This is the average, but it's backloaded, and you're not going to get the last couple of years. So, yeah, don't let pride mess with you.
Yeah, and you don't have
Forget
any other
pride.
option. Yeah, this is why I thought they'd wind up around this. It makes total sense, and I think it happens pretty quickly here.
All right, let's talk little Warriors. They dismissed the Rockets in Houston last night. They made that series look so tough, and then with the series on the line, the Rockets just were not ready, and the Warriors really, really were. What'd you make of that series, and how do you see this team going forward?
It was great, man. It was, I'm a big Warrior fan. Steph had an underrated game yesterday. I think people were more focused on his scoring. He led the Warriors yesterday in every other statistical category outside of scoring. He led the Warriors in every statistical category throughout the series. What people, I think, like a lot of casual basketball fans that don't really understand the game don't really recognize, like, this man was being double teamed the entire, as soon as he crashed half court, he's double teamed the entire game. And they're like, oh, he's not scoring. Like, look, it's Buddy Hield's bailing him out. Buddy Hield's wide open, and Buddy Hield played great. Don't get me wrong, but he's open because Steph Curry is being doubled. Like, I don't think people really get it. And then his defense underrated: 2 steals, 2 blocks. Steph Curry is not known for defense, but yesterday his defense was really freaking good. When it's on the line,
he's not like Luka, who's disinterested and doesn't give effort. Like, he's very interested and he gives great effort. He's just 6'3".
Right. Yeah, no,
He led the league in steals twice in 2 different seasons.
Yeah, off the ball type stuff. Steph is one of the best players. Him and Jordan are like the 2 players I watched in my life where I'm like, I've never seen anyone do this before. Like, Jordan made me. What's that?
Let's talk about Steph's legacy then.
Yeah.
I tweeted out last night that he's better than LeBron. I believe it. To me, he's better than Kobe. He's better than LeBron. The top 2 players of all time that I've ever seen are him and Jordan, to your point.
Yeah. I mean, LeBron's got the statistics and the career, that help him. But, like, when you're watching the game, when you watch Jordan play, you're like, man, I've never seen anything like this guy ever. And it's the same thing with Steph. Like, the things he does, you're like, I've never seen anyone do this before, especially so consistently like Steph does. I think those 2 guys are, to me, it's tough. I really like Kobe as well. Kobe was kind of that way also, but Kobe was kind of a Jordan Jr. To me. And no disrespect, Kobe's up there for me as well, but Kobe wouldn't be Kobe without Jordan. But Jordan was his own man. Steph is his own man. They both changed the game. He's phenomenal, man. I've never been a big LeBron guy. I respect him, and I respect his talent, and I respect his career. I respect him as a family man. I think he's a good person. I just don't see that dog in him. I don't see that killer instinct that you saw with Jordan. Kobe had it, but I don't see it with LeBron, and that's what drops him down a little bit for me.
I feel like Curry is the best offensive player I've ever seen, like, in every way. He's great with the ball in his hands. He's great off the ball. LeBron isn't like that. Like, LeBron's great with the ball in his hands, but once you take the ball out of his hands, no one's worried about him setting a screen or posting up, or hanging out at the 3-point line or whatever. Like he's just not much of a threat once the ball's out of his hands. So that limits him. And it's in terms of the shooting from all three areas, all three levels of the court, the playmaking, he always makes the right play. He never forces it when he's trapped or doubled. So that's just the offense. And then you look at LeBron, like, what makes LeBron an all-time great? Like, he's not he's a point forward. He's not the greatest scorer. Like, he doesn't have the greatest, he's not the greatest shooter. He doesn't have a mid-range game. He's a very good all-around player who can do a little bit of everything, but he's not necessarily like the greatest at any one thing. I think he's got the most hype of all time because of ESPN and how he came out of high school and he's an American. But like, is he really was prime LeBron really better than prime Giannis?
Yeah. I mean, Giannis, yes. LeBron. Here's LeBron to me. LeBron is just a physical specimen who's very well-rounded. Obviously, great conditioning, great shape. His longevity over his career is phenomenal. But here's how I always try to like explain it to people that disagree with me about this. If you gave Jordan LeBron's physical ability and stature, would he be better than LeBron right now? If Steph was LeBron's size, would he be better than LeBron?
That's what LeBron was. He was an all-time great athlete, 6'8", and when in his prime, he was like the fastest player in the league. He's an incredible athlete, but like, was he a great scorer? No, he's a good scorer. Was he a great shooter? No, he was a solid shooter. Was he a great rebounder? No, he was a good rebounder. Was he a great passer? No, he was a good passer. Like, to me, there's no aspect of his game that was just incredibly great, whereas there was with Steph. Every aspect of him on offense was great. Is great.
Yeah, if Steph was built like LeBron, he'd be the greatest player that ever lived, I think, probably. So it's LeBron, what he has going for him, he's a giant specimen of an athlete. He's great in that regard. But like what you see is a lot of players that are like that, they don't have to be more than that because they've gotten by with that their entire life. Right? Like,
I compare him to Giannis again. Giannis gets no hype because he's from Greece, but he's bigger than LeBron. He's just as fast, if not faster, than prime LeBron. He's a better rebounder than LeBron. He's just as good at scoring as LeBron. He's not the shooter that LeBron is, but LeBron's not a great shooter. I just think LeBron's a little overhyped. And I think it has a lot to do with the way he came out of high school, the way he's always been compared to LeBron, the way Stephen A. and freaking Bayless talked about him every day for 20 years. Giannis doesn't move the needle like that, but just in terms of what they bring to the court, he's a better defender than LeBron. I don't know.
It's like how one like Steph. It's like how Shaq was so physically dominant that he was unstoppable. One of the best centers that ever played the game. And honestly, I think Shaq had a little more killer instinct than him. But I think that is LeBron. He is just a physical specimen, amazing athlete. His longevity is absolutely remarkable. And that's allowed him to put up a ton of statistics and win and be successful. But he's just not there's nothing new about him. The real difference between him and Jordan to me it's up here. It's his mindset. He's just not that killer, right? In end of the game situations, when the game is on the line, I've seen LeBron multiple times let everybody else take over for him. I've seen him, he let Kyrie do it for him. He let Luka do it for him. Jordan would never do that, ever, unless he absolutely had to. Like, he's going to go win this game. I think that's the biggest difference, I think, between like a Jordan and LeBron. It's the mindset.
And I think what's funny with Curry, people always trying to take away from Curry. Like, well, he wasn't the NBA, the finals MVP was Kevin Durant. It's like, okay, who's a better player? Like, people always try to say that Kevin Durant carried those teams. Clearly not. Kevin Durant can't carry anything. He's done nothing without Stephen Curry, whereas Stephen Curry has won 2 championships and counting without Kevin Durant. Then last night, Buddy Hield goes off and people immediately online are like, oh, Buddy Hield saved Steph Curry. Buddy Hield is no one without Stephen Curry. He's been no one. He's a journeyman. All of a sudden, he plays with Stephen Curry and he's a savior. Like, that's the Steph effect. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And people don't really realize it, like the gravity. I've never seen a player, maybe outside of Jordan, maybe not even Jordan.
Not even
Honestly,
Jordan, because Jordan didn't have the range of Steph. He
the
wasn't a shooter like Steph.
gravity that Steph just pulls, like to get double teamed as soon as you cross half court. I don't know if
At
people really
37.
Yeah, like I don't know if you understand how much that affects your whole entire team. Being a threat as soon as you cross half court, and where you have double teamed and everyone's coming over to help, and when you're getting screened, everybody switches to you because they're worried about you shooting. Like, how many wide open layups on screens on pick and rolls do they get because both players stay with Steph, and then the roller just goes to the basket, wide open layup? Like, I've never seen that happen with any other player besides Steph.
That's why I think Steph might be the best player of all time. I know it's blasphemous to say it, but I mean,
I gotta go.
Jordan just didn't have that kind of an impact on offense. Great player, way better defender than Steph was. The greatest two-way player of all time. Different players. But yeah, man, I've never seen anyone have an impact on a game like Steph has ever. It's not even close.
Yeah, he's definitely changed the game probably more than anybody, but I got Jordan. Jordan will always be the GOAT to me. I really don't see anybody passing him up defensively, offensively. And, in fairness to Jordan, if he played in today's game, there's no doubt in my mind he would have developed a three-point shot. That's just who Jordan was. He would have made sure, I believe the three-point line didn't even happen until he was like last year in college for him. I'm pretty sure, something like that. So he didn't grow up shooting threes. But if he grew up in this era, you better believe Jordan would have been a dominant three-point shooter too.
Yeah. Only thing with Jordan is that the rest of the Bulls are really good too. Like when he retired, they won 50-something games without him, and they won playoff series without him. Pippen was great, Robin was great, but yeah, great player. Michael Jordan. I think Michael Jordan. That's my take. Great player. I don't care what anyone says.
Hey, it's bold. That's a bold take.
Bold take right there. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad we both agree on LeBron James. And here's one thing I want to say about LeBron. One more thing. So Curry, Kobe, Jordan all essentially played their entire careers with one team. I know Jordan played with the Wizards when he was owning them at the end, but that doesn't count. I respect that. LeBron played for 4 teams. And it was like, he always did this thing where he would kind of meddle with the roster and make requests for who should be on it and then ditch it. It's like, this team sucks. It's not good enough. You put it together. And he did it like 3 times. I don't respect that. Like you were the greatest player of all time and you had to leave 3 teams. Steph didn't have to do that. He was drafted by the freaking Warriors and he made it work.
So part of the difference, I think, mentally between Jordan and those guys is, Steph was, small-time college player, Davis, underdog, underrated completely. Jordan wasn't hyped up to the level LeBron was. LeBron has been supposedly the greatest player since he was in 8th grade.
Right.
It's been hype around him. So that, it gets in your head and you believe I'm that guy, and you don't really have to prove anybody wrong throughout your life. And I think that's a big difference in their mentality.
I knew who LeBron James was when he was a sophomore in high school. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated as a sophomore in high school. There's never been a player hyped like him. I mean, Jordan was like still in the league at the time. And he was playing for the Wizards, and this kid was in freaking high school wearing 23. People saying this guy's going to be the next Jordan. He's going to be the next greatest player of all time. And so like they broadcast his games at whatever the hell high school he went to. Yeah. On ESPN. I remember watching that stuff in high school as a freshman. So there's never been a player with as much hype as him, really. Not Steph, not Giannis, not Jokic. And I think people love talking about him. They talk about him on ESPN all the time, and that's a big reason why he's looked at as the GOAT. But that's a lot of hype.
Yeah, and look, man, St. Vincent, St. Mary's. Yeah,
St. Vincent, yeah.
He's LeBron's great, man. Don't get me wrong. I don't want people thinking I don't like LeBron, and I respect what he's done to live with that much pressure your entire life, for everyone to say you're that great player and to actually come close to living up to it or living up to it, depending on how you look at it, without being just the over the top cocky a-hole. It says a lot about him, and he's a good family man, been with the same woman his entire life, no scandals around him, good business person. So I respect all of that about LeBron. It's just I think what we talked about, what set Jordan slightly apart, and what Steph is doing right now is just, we've never seen it before.
Yeah, like what is a signature LeBron play? He dribbles the ball for a while. He dribbles the ball for a while. He gets a screen. He gets a mismatch. He drives. He finishes. And it's very, efficient, but it's not super exciting. Even him dunking, it's one dunk. He has one dunk. That's why he never went in the dunk contest. He wouldn't have won. He's one dunk. He's like Zoolander of dunkers.
LeBron would be a better player with Steph Curry's skill set. So that kind of tells you, to me, what we love about LeBron. Is just a phenomenal beast of an athlete.
I want to see Steph and Giannis play together. That's the next.
Oh man, they would win a championship for sure. I'm hoping that happens. Everyone would say it's cheating or whatever, but I don't care. Let me see it.
Yeah, no one cares about Giannis until he plays with Steph. Then he's the greatest player of all time, which he really is, dude. Giannis is so good. If he were from Texas, he would get so much more hype.
Let me ask you about Brooks and Draymond.
Yeah.
I don't like Dylan Brooks. I saw an interview with him off the rec, like at home with his family. Seems like a nice guy. But in the games, I don't like him. He seems like a dirty kind of guy. Would you like Draymond Green if he wasn't on the Warriors? I don't.
Would I like him?
I think I would.
I would respect him a whole lot more than I would respect Dylan Brooks, because I feel like Dylan is trying to be like Draymond, but he's not as good, and he's mostly just trash talking. Whereas Draymond, like last night, you could watch like, oh, that's the best defensive player I've ever seen. Watch, like Şengün can't do anything. I mean,
I like Draymond a lot because he's on the Warriors, but I think if he was on another team, I would. He's one of those players like you hate if he's on another team because he's so dirty. He's so dirty, bro. Like, being real.
He hit Jalen Green in the face last night.
He hit someone every game. He hit somebody, dude. He kicked the guy in the back of the head on purpose in the dude's head. He's lucky that guy's face didn't hit the ground hard. He's so dirty. I love him on my team. I would hate him on another team.
But I feel like back when we were kids, like every team had one player like that. There was a goon. It's almost like hockey. It's like a goon out there. And with Draymond, at least he's more than just a goon. Like, he's also got the skill to like lead the fast break and make the pass. And like, that's what makes him so intriguing. You know what I mean? Like, he can kind of get away with it because he's more than just dirty, although he is.
Yeah.
He even says it. He's like, I'm a habitual line stepper. Like, he knows it.
And with Brooks, it's there's nothing behind. Like, you don't have anything to back up this attitude that you play with. Yeah.
And it seems fake, right? Like with Draymond, he's very authentically, he's like he's unhinged. Yeah. Dylan Brooks is like put together a caricature of what he thinks a tough defender would be in the NBA.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking about it.
Anyway, it's been a long show. Ryan, thanks for going overtime with me, talking a little basketball.
Yeah, man. 4-man front tomorrow on my channel.
Hell yeah. The four of us, Ryan's channel, 4:45 Pacific, 7:45 Eastern. Make sure you like and subscribe. Turn on notifications. Do that for me too. I'd really appreciate it. And go check out Factor and go check out all the links in the description. Factor, Prize Picks. Support the channel. Have a great Cinco de Mayo and enjoy yourself.